I do want to go ahead and dive right on into our next session. I saw some people are starting to join. I know we had some questions early in the day today about Wishlist and how it boosts your SEO. So that is what this session is about. I'm going to kind of try and dive right in to keep us on time. And I am going to take questions at the end. So with that, if you have any questions as I'm moving along here, definitely encourage you to drop them in the Q&A, and we will make sure to cover those at the end. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our slides now. Feel free, again, go ahead and pull up that Q&A, drop any questions you have there, and I will make sure that we cover those today. Okay. Can everybody see my intro slide here? Give me a hand raise, give me a shout in the chat. Got a couple of hands raised here. Awesome. Okay. So one of the things that people ask us about a lot is SEO. And I think that one of the things that's really challenging about SEO is, first off, there's conflicting information out there because things have changed over the years. So things that used to be really popular in terms of how you can boost your SEO have since changed. Google constantly is changing their algorithm. They're constantly improving and trying to make the experience better for people who are searching. So some of the kind of hacky solutions that some of you may be familiar with that used to be fun little tricks you could play on Google are just not things you can do anymore. So you actually have to be a lot more strategic with how you build your website, a lot more thoughtful, because, frankly, the technology is just catching up and it's almost like a human and it knows what's important and what's relevant. Some of the things that you can do for SEO, we have built right into the wish list, and we've actually made some big improvements in the last year regarding the wish list and SEO. In fact, if you were in our first session today, which was about the new features that we launched in 2021, we alluded to some of these things in that session as well. So what I would like to cover today is 3 major improvements we've made in the wish list and how it relates to SEO, and then what you can do to take advantage. And don't worry, if you're looking at my little agenda here and going, I don't know what any of those mean, that's okay. I will make sure to explain those as well as explain how they apply. Now, if you don't yet have the website wishlist integration, be sure to chat us, let us know so we can get you set up with a demo of that specific integration. That is an add-on integration that anyone who's using it can attest to in the chat is a game changer. So we want to make sure that we get you spun up as soon as we can, particularly with spring and busy season for most of our clients right around the corner. So the first thing that I want to talk about today are H1 and H2 tags. I'm going to go ahead and call these Google's TLDR of the page. So if you don't know what TLDR means, I was a little late to the game on this myself. It means too long, didn't read. In other words, what is Google looking for if they're not scanning your entire page? What they are looking for are H1 and H2 tags. These are basically your header and subheader. I've mentioned on past sessions, if you've come to any of our SEO sessions, that you cannot have Google read your headers and subheaders simply by making them bold. That is not how technology works. They don't have a way to know what's a header unless you code it in. But here's the good news. If you're using something like Squarespace or WordPress or Weebly, Webflow, any of these awesome platforms, what they do is they make it so that you don't have to know how to code. What you do need to do is you need to say heading 1 or heading 2 when you are creating that title. There is a difference between selecting that in these platforms and just making it bold. Because when you select that, what these platforms are built to do, the reason you pay them a monthly subscription fee is that they on the back end put in the code in front and behind of your header that says H1 or H2, which then translates it to Google to say, hey, this page is about corporate events. This page is for someone who might be Googling to book rentals for corporate events in the DC area. So you want to pay a lot of attention to what you're putting as your H1 and H2 or header and subheaders of every single page, because that's what Google is grabbing to understand what that page is all about. With that comes great opportunity. If you only have a page that says rentals, that's a great start, but keep in mind that you could be building pages that focus on specific event types. And what do people usually search? They're searching for their baby shower. They're searching for their wedding, for their birthday. You could also be doing a specific theme. So I have a friend who's planning a Mardi Gras party right now. You better believe that they are searching up Mardi Gras party rentals, Mardi Gras party themes. So if you have that in your header or subheader somewhere, that is increasing your visibility for those search terms. You can also have local venues. So we've started to see some of our clients doing this. They say, hey, we are a preferred vendor at the Ritz-Carlton. Well, great. Make sure that you put Ritz-Carlton and do not put it without the location. Remember, there are many of them. So, Ritz-Carlton, downtown DC, we are a preferred vendor for rentals at the Ritz-Carlton. These are the things that you can put in the header or subheader that are going to help you. And then you can scope packages and items that fit that theme or that venue or that event type. So what did we introduce that was new? This was a capability before, but we have made it easier to do. So we have made it easier to build these scope pages. In the past, and many of you already have this built, you had to tag those items that you wanted on the page. And you still do if you're pulling from a bunch of different places. If you're going to do a specific venue, the best way to build that page is still going to be a tag, because you're going to be pulling things from tons of different categories, and you probably are going to want to very much pick exactly what you recommend for that venue. However, let's say you don't have the time right now to build up the tags, but you do know that you want to put a page focusing on your photo booths. All you have to do is you can now build a basic page that says photo booth rentals in Calgary, and you can go in and put in a snippet of code that says everything in the subcategory of photo booths just shows here. Boom, one step. You don't have to change anything on the back end. You can also do this with your attributes that you already have. So let's say you have an attribute for a specific collection or a specific theme. You don't have to tag those items now. You can just put those attributes on that page. You can even do this with things that you might not realize you already have. You might say, oh, I don't have an attribute yet for my themes. Okay, do you have an attribute for your items that are a certain color? So I went to UVA. I'm going to give a little shout out there to the University of Virginia. Our colors are blue and orange. So if I was in Virginia and thought maybe there's going to be some UVA graduation parties around the May time, I would probably want to go ahead and start a page now that says UVA graduation party rentals in Virginia. And all I would have to do is say, just push everything that's blue and orange onto this page. And now I've built a page that is discoverable for search capabilities. This is your action item. For each of these, I'm going to give you an action item, a bit of homework to test out after this. I know some folks have said, I don't really know how to code. I don't really know how to build the site. And we have partners who are wonderful, who've built beautiful, beautiful sites for our users and made it super easy, taken that off their plate. But I will point out that you don't have to be somebody who has a background in coding to copy and paste, which we have the ability from our developer docs. And all you would have to do is create a landing page off of something that you already have in a category or already have in a color. And this is an exact example of what my UVA example would look like. I would just put in a snippet of code that says I have the GS Pro item list. That means I don't want to have the search or filter bar at the top, just a list of items. I would put the category of decor rentals, which is the whole category of decor. You do have to make sure that you spell it exactly right. And you can check out our help articles for help on making sure you know where to look for that. And then I would say, you know what? I want the item attribute of color. And I want the value to either be blue, this little bar here, that means or orange. All this is doing is sending a command to my page to say any of my decor that's blue or orange should go on my UVA graduation party rentals page. And now what have I done? By copying and pasting this, which truly should take about 5 minutes, and then putting the right header and subheader language, I have a huge opportunity to snatch up all those people who are looking for rentals for this specific thing that's local and relevant to me. Of course, I will always recommend, and we can talk on this a little bit more, check in your Google Search Console. Look, what are people Googling when they come and find you? Do you actually go into your event type report in Goodshuffle, and you might surprise yourself to realize, you know, we've actually done a fair amount of baby showers this year. I didn't expect that when I got into the business, but they seem to be on the rise. So maybe a baby shower page is the first thing you should do. And then you can even go in, and again, you can do it based off of, maybe you just look for all your pastel colors or a certain collection. And it makes it very easy. You don't have to get it perfect. Get a couple of things live. You can still be winning that search just from even your title and your header. And then you can always build more things to add to that page later down the line. Okay, so that's H1 and H2 tags. Sounds very scary. Really, it's just winning on the headers and creating additional landing pages. So number 2 here is your indexed pages. Think of this as Google's popularity contest. So one of many ways that Google can figure out who's popular or who's got authority is how many pages they have. And when I was mentioning in the beginning of this that people used to have these kind of goofy hacks in order to kind of trick Google, this is what I was thinking of. I recall lots of people who duplicated their pages because they wanted to try and make their site appear bigger to Google. Well, Google very quickly caught on. Duplicate sites are now dinged. That is not good. You don't want to have the same thing on a bunch of sites. You want it to be different per site. And you want it to be relevant. You want to make sure that you're not creating a site that's just completely unrelated to any search terms or anything that you would be categorized as. So you really want to try and make sure you have, some cohesion. One quick plug here is this is a big debate we have internally sometimes and oftentimes with our users. I find it very interesting. And if you are one of these people, feel free to confess in the chat and maybe we can talk offline about what your reasoning is. We are finding that some of our users, they do, let's say, weddings, and then they do birthday parties, and they want to keep them as 2 separate brands or businesses, and they open up a web page for both. And most of the people on our business team find this very puzzling because what are they missing out on? They are missing out on the opportunity to have a ton of pages that are feeding their brand. If I were to go to your website and it were to automatically say, are you looking for this kind of event or this kind of event? You can easily push people towards the experience that makes the most sense for what they're looking for. But if you put them on different domains, you are now missing out on the opportunity to build the authority of all these different pages. So most people are striving for a website that has a lot of pages. I really struggled to find a visual for this, by the way. I just came up with this popular person with their little posse of people. So imagine that's your main website with all of your different sub landing pages. But you want to have more pages that are still very keyword rich, that they're very much not the junk data, the duplicate. You want it to make sense on a sitemap, and you want it to be all relevant to your core offering. Now, okay, what have we introduced to make this easier? Well, all of your individual items, your services, your packages, when you click that individual thing, look up in the bar, you'll see that there's a unique URL, which makes it easy to link to from social media and things like that. But what's also really exciting is we have done a lot of extra work to ensure that these are actually crawled as unique pages. So if you have 500 inventory items in Goodshuffle and you set the wish list live tomorrow, your website now has 500 unique relevant pages that are now built into your website. So this is supercharging your SEO. This is making you way more relevant and way more authoritative in Google's eyes, more popular as I put it. And it's going to go and it's pulled straight from your Goodshuffle account. So you don't have to go in and manually duplicate a bunch of pages. You can put our basic template gallery live and you will automatically have those pages. You can customize them at a later date, but you will automatically have those individual pages right out of the gate, right out of the box. Now, what do you need to do in order to really take advantage of this? I would recommend sprucing up your e-commerce description. So for those who have the wish list, you may already be familiar that by default, we'll pull your contract description in. This little box would be checked to say, yeah, I just use my contract description. That's fine. I would make it a goal if it feels overwhelming to do all your inventory right now. Say, okay, over the next however many months, I'm going to just maybe do 1 or 2 per day. And I'm going to go in and really spruce up the words I use on my e-commerce description. Now, you may be asking, well, if I'm sprucing it up, why wouldn't I change the contract description? You can, but keep in mind, in this example, I had some accent pillows, and I'm writing in a description where I talk about things that's perfect for nautical themed baby showers and outdoor parties and things like that, that I am thinking people are going to be searching for a blue and white striped pillow. But if I send someone a contract and it's for, you know, a memorial service or something completely out of what's in this description, I don't want them to see that description. So what we would oftentimes recommend as a best practice is your contract description, it may be more flowery than accent pillows made with cotton. That was a little oversimplification. You may want to zhuzh that up a little bit, but you might not want to put event types or things like that when I'm contracting an individual, that those things may not apply to them. We're really focusing on, again, look in your search console and your Google Search Console. You can see yourself what people are Googling and figure out, okay, what makes sense for each item for me to put in those keywords? Because again, all of this is going on its own indexed page. So you want to make sure that you have unique, relevant, keyword-rich descriptions for each item. And again, this is not something you need to do before you get your wish list live. You want to get those 500 or however many pages live ASAP. From there, though, the next step will be, okay, now let me really kind of infuse these with all of my awesome keywords. Structured data. So I like to think of this as Google's paint by numbers. So we all know in a paint by numbers, it's not allowing you to paint wherever. You have to follow certain colors to certain numbers. And that's sort of how Google is gathering information. If you structure the data in the right way, Google can digest it faster and make your search results stand out in a way that makes sense to us as consumers. So let me show you some examples. I love the example of recipes. I like to think of this as, you know how annoying it is when you're searching for a recipe, and if you land on the blog post for that recipe, you have to scroll through some really long story about grandma's farm and how she grew up and had this basket that she collected the vegetables in. And I'm like, I'm hungry. If I'm Googling a recipe, I'm hungry. I would love to just get to the recipe already. So you may have noticed that we sometimes get something called a snippet like this, which is going to be your rich results, your, very quick glance of a recipe. But you also sometimes can at least see how this very first 2 things, all I searched, grandma's bean salad recipe. Notice that the first couple searches are actual recipes for a salad. They don't take me to copycat or all recipes directly, and then I have to go hunting. It's taking me right to the data because those results were structured in a way to identify my intent. So what does this have to do with you? You obviously aren't putting grandma's recipe on your website. What you are doing is putting your inventory. And we have created structured data. We've introduced structured data for every item detail page. So I mentioned already that every item is getting its own page and how great that is for your domain authority. But what's also great is we've now structured this data so that when folks are searching for something, and I ran a test with one of our users who I got to see at IFAI last week, Olympus Tents and Events out in Utah. And I just said Olympus, Utah, which is where they're located, Fruitwood Shivari chair rentals. Well, within 0.7 seconds, I not only got their website, but I immediately got the link for the exact chair that I wanted and a direct link to that page. If you've ever Google searched, you know how much of a relief is that, right? It's so much faster. It's so much less annoying than having to go hunting. It also really gives you an authoritative brand. How great is this, that if I was looking in this city for this type of rental, and it takes me right there, how much more trust am I building with my potential client, potential shopper, that I am taking them exactly to their needs? So this requires very little effort on your part. Oh, and by the way, my plus here, it does increase your likelihood of achieving rich results for snippets. Rich results and snippets, they're more common for things like recipes. Google still learning how to paint by numbers, but this does increase the possibility of you getting that kind of initial first result. Now, what you have to do is very, very little. This automatically happens just like the pages, but what suggestion I do want to make is, just like I'm suggesting to put more keywords in your descriptions, I would suggest considering making your titles of inventory items as specific and clear and straight to the point as possible. So I also did a quick example here where I looked up one of our users. I said, let me rent brass trays in the Austin, Dallas, that area, knowing that we have clients there. And sure enough, our wonderful clients at Loot Rentals came up right away with 2 brass trays. Now, if they hadn't named those trays brass trays, if they named them something different, it might not have known to come up with that structured data result. So I don't want to sound like I'm squelching creativity. As a creative person myself, I know how we like to name things cool things. I see a lot of people, particularly in the vintage area, naming things really cute names. I'm not going to tell you not to, but I think it's important to make sure everyone understands that if you are to name something more clearly what it is called, or at very least put that in your description, that is going to be very helpful in increasing your Google search, because people are not out there looking for the Betty tray. They're looking for a brass tray. And so if you have that in the name, in the title, that does help with your SEO. So here is sort of the step-by-step that I would suggest. And then I will go ahead and open it up to questions. I want to make sure we answer or we finish before the end of the time here. So I know a lot of people are, thinking that you have to be a developer to tackle SEO. Not the case. These are all things you can do. First thing you want to do before addressing any of this is make sure that you have on your website Wishlist integration at least version 0.4.3. I would recommend having our most current version, which is 0.5.2. We can send you the help articles. We can show you how to do this. It's really as easy as you go into the header where you implemented your integration and you change a couple numbers. Super easy. So we can help you with that. I can send the help article out here as well. I would love if one of my colleagues is on here, if they can send it in the chat. That would be great. So you want to make sure you have the most up-to-date version. If you have anything beyond higher than the number of 0.4.3, all of this is already included. We're actually going to do this in reverse order of how I presented them, because let's start with the easiest one, right? The easiest one is just spruce up your titles. If you have some things that you have named as sort of funky or creative things, if you want to keep that, that's obviously fine. But if you're starting to rethink that, that's a very simple change you can make now that's going to improve your structured data results. So just go in, change the titles of those to be much more explicit on the color or the type of chair, tent, etc., so that folks who are Googling that can find that result. Then I would recommend amplifying your descriptions. This is something you can do gradually over time. One of my favorite things I ever heard, I'm not sure if she's still on, I know she was on earlier today, our wonderful user Shannon Thomas of CS Solutions out of Charlotte. She told me that when she was really trying to amp up some of her descriptions of her stuff, she just came into work, I believe it was something like 15 minutes early every day for like 2 weeks. And what she did, this is the hard part of it. You got to take your cell phone and turn it over and minimize your email. And then just 15 minutes of working in Goodshuffle, and then back to normal business starting right at 9 or whatever time you start. I thought that was the most brilliant, simple solution to think of. Just don't look at your email, don't get pulled by anything, and you will find that your descriptions are spruced up in no time. And then from there, create those collections. So really important for you to see the opportunity. And this is where you should check into your Google Search Console, see what people in your area are searching, see how you've been getting discovered as is, and then amplify that. How can I highlight a local venue, a popular theme, anything like that? And you can start with the ones that require no tagging. That means I'm just going to go ahead and pop up one for, this subcategory that I really want to highlight. And I want to use, if people say lawn games versus yard games versus just cornhole, whatever is being searched in your area, again, you can just highlight that in the header and then display all those items beneath. From there, you can start building out things like the tagged collections. If you want to say, okay, well, I've got like a weird hodgepodge of stuff for, such and such event coming up, and I want to individually pull them from all these different tags, that's fine too. All you have to do is put a short snippet of code on that page and then just go into those items, search them in your inventory, add that tag. Of course, if you want to become a true SEO boss, we have lots of free education on our site. We have done many webinars discussing how SEO works, how you can take advantage, all these different things that are very quickly actionable, myths to avoid. So I would definitely encourage you to check out pro.goodshuffle.com/education. And we even have a whole collection specifically about website strategy. So that includes user experience, SEO, design, things that you might want to know. And with those steps, I'm going to go ahead and open it to any questions. Is there anything that folks wanted to ask about the wish list, about SEO? I'm happy to answer those in the minutes that remain. I know we've had a very long education-filled day, so some folks may be hopping on to either get some work done or cocktail hour, either one, respect, but let me know if you have any questions in our Q&A and I will address those now. We don't need to tag the location for every item. It should pull from the website. Great question. Yes, so you want to avoid having too much duplicate content. So you shouldn't necessarily need to put those on every page. I would just ensure you have it on your regular page and make sure that it's on all your primary pages. That's probably one of the biggest errors I see on people's websites. I actually did a common mistakes on website webinar about 2 years ago, and a wedding planner who I know joined, and she personally texted me after and said, oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. I've owned my business for 2 years, and I just realized based on your webinar that my location is like not on my main page. It's buried in, some off-page like contact. And so, she put all of these wonderful things on her website, but she was missing where she was located. And a really important thing to remember too is, do you have common things? I showed the example of DFW for Dallas Fort Worth. Are there nicknames that you need to put, tri-state area, things like that? We have in the DC area, a lot of people call it DMV for DC, Maryland, Virginia. And so you need to put DMV location or region. We've got another question here. Where does the item show if we click the marketplace? Wonderful question. It shows up on the Goodshuffle.com marketplace. So the Goodshuffle.com marketplace is currently under some construction. So you can see that there's some things like it's only pushing people to call you. There's not an ordering feature, which is something to come in the future. But right now it's a free listing site. So you get the advantage of when someone does, and in some of my tests of this, the Googling immediately brought up our marketplace because we have wonderful SEO on that site. And people could find you via the Goodshuffle marketplace. And then it says call. It has a direct link to your website. It has your phone number. So you'll get folks who just call. It's a free listing site. It's like a free directory. Okay, another great question here. These are great questions, by the way. How do we be careful not to create too many tags? What's a common misunderstood reason for tags? Oh, what a great question, Patrick. So tags are great. They're really flexible. They're really easy to use. They're how a lot of people are building their website. The only thing that I see that I think is a mistake is you don't need to use a tag if you are putting all of a category, all of a subcategory, all of an attribute on a page. If you're tagging to put your photo booth rentals, for example, on a page, you're just doubling your work. It's fine. It won't hurt anything. It's just then you're going back in and tagging all these photo booths that are already in the same category. So the tag is meant to be used only when it doesn't all fit in the same category. It doesn't all fit in the same attribute. If you have an attribute like collection, I would use that, because attributes are also a wonderful way for you to sort your inventory. So let's say I have things that fit in my antique collection or boho vibe. That I think is a better attribute, because then I can build reports, or I can just quickly filter all of my stuff to say, show me my boho stuff. It's just going to show it. If you tag it, you can search it and it pulls the search via tag. But I personally love, as an organized person, the organization of filters. When you're on your inventory page, you can select that filter blue bubble, and then you can say vibe or collection, and it will just show me then everything I have that's boho. So I think attributes are oftentimes a great way to accomplish that. And then you can also use the attribute on the site, but there is no bad way to use tags. You're not going to max out on them. I think the only common misunderstanding is people thinking they need to use tags for the website when they already have another route to use them on the website, if that makes sense. If we tag event pictures that we load into our venue directory, will they get picked up from Google Images? No, so that's an internal thing only. Your venue pictures that you have in Goodshuffle are private to you. This can be really great if you don't want them to be public. So let's say you are a pipe and drape company and you had someone who figured out a really clever way to jerry rig some crazy pipe and drape thing in the ballroom at a venue, and you drag that into your venue. So the next time you work there, you guys remember, we got to do this crazy hacky thing because of a fire exit. You don't want that on your website. So the things that you put in Goodshuffle are password protected, are yours to keep, but it's a great opportunity for you to then say, okay, you know what, we're going to make it our goal for February, now that we're in a new month, to build a new venue site. And we'll start with our most popular venue. What a wonderful opportunity for you to say, okay, you or whoever's doing it, just go into the venue in Goodshuffle, pull all the photos from there, make it a scrolling gallery at the top, and then I'll go in and tag the things that want to be on the bottom. So it's a wonderful storage place for you to pull things to your website. It doesn't automatically show from the internal software. When you add an image to the wish list, does the system rename the photo? The system does not rename the photo, but I think I'd need to better understand what you are looking to do. The photo itself wouldn't be named, but the item card is its own name. So the URL at the top, which is what Google is going to be looking for, that slug, the end of the URL, is going to be red, and that's going to be the name of the inventory item, which is why you want to look at naming your inventory. So if customers look up, so keep in mind, again, there's another question about venues. Anything that you're putting in venues is not something that's public facing. So it's your item, it's your pictures from your inventory are going to automatically show on the wish list. Your pictures from the venue you'd want to add there. Now, if you were to create a package that says Hyatt Scottsdale rental packages, Ballroom A rental package, you could have those be the pictures. And then what can be really exciting, and you can see how geeky I get about this stuff, is someone can be searching for Hyatt Scottsdale rental packages, and your beautiful package that includes maybe the microphone and the speakers or the chairs and the red carpet or whatever it is that you're doing will just show up, and it'll have cool pictures from the Hyatt. So use the packages to make sure that you are not asking anyone to have an imagination, right? We're the creatives. You paint the vision and make it super easy for that to come spoon-fed to them. And they'll say, oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. Search by filter checkbox kind of feature for a Goodshuffle Pro webpage. Yes, Patrick. So I believe the question is, can I filter the things on the website? Absolutely. So I showed on this slide, if we can go back just a bit. I guess more than a bit, quite a bit. I have GS Pro item list as an example for a page. If you change this word and this word simply to the word gallery, now what's going to show on that page is the same stuff, but with a search bar and a filter at the top so that they can search just that page, that they can filter just that page based on attributes. So people oftentimes do this for things like linens, right? Where I want to be able to say, just show me the black ones. boom, anything that's got the attribute that's black is now going to show. So if you haven't yet checked out a demo of our website wishlist integration, be sure you set one of those up. I would love to show you all of this in action. It's very exciting.